Thomas just weighed in. Thomas Brooks just weighed in across social media on X, formerly known as Twitter. Thomas, thank you for listening and thank you for coming. If you want to reach out to me, I'm Westside Jeff sitting in for Chris Kroc. You can reach me across X at Westside Jeff, also on Facebook and Instagram. Thomas, thanks for listening. You posted you sent me a note that said, "Hey Jeff, great show. Thank you, Westside." You're welcome. Thomas, thank you. Listen, the show's not about me, it's about you. This is talk radio is a conversation with the community, and that's what it is. And that's what I do. I give common sense opinion on current events, and common sense is missing today. I mentioned a moment ago I'd share a couple tidbits that I think are very, very important. A news story that you might have missed because of the 4th of July holiday. Did you know that on Sunday night, the Pentagon had put out a press release increasing the threat level to Charlie? They call it Charlie. It's the second highest of 5 levels for service members. And they say it's a result of a combination of events occurring across Europe. They increased the threat level for American military members around the globe. Yes, the Pentagon raised the threat level. There's no credible threats of attack, nothing specific that they have, but they increased the threat level. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think they increased the threat level on Sunday night? And that was released, that information, Monday, and you probably, unless you're really hyper aware of what's going on, you missed that story. How did you miss that story? Are you that out of tune? Are you that unaware of what's going on? Social unawareness? No. It's the media. They hid it from you. The media's not been doing their job. The media has become the fourth estate, a public relations arm for the Biden administration. Now, their press release from the Pentagon says that the increasing the threat level to Charlie, it's the second highest level of 5 levels for service members, is a result of, they say, a combination of events occurring across Europe, including elections in France and the UK. A couple others. Let me come back to that in a minute. But let me ask you this. France and UK have gone through elections before. Have threat levels gone up before for that? Never. They also say the upcoming Olympics. I get that. I understand the concept. We have to be more socially aware of what's going on because of the Olympics. But that was coming no matter what. And they say the other major sporting events are a factor in that too. My question, what other major sporting events are there other than the events for the trials to make the Olympics team? And they say ongoing wars in Ukraine and Gaza. Well, hell, those have been going on since October 7th or so. Here's my 2 cents worth. The threat level went up on the heels, in part. I'm not telling you, I'm not saying, I'm not your right-wing talking guy. The world's coming to an end. Joe Biden caused that. But I'm here to tell you, Joe Biden was a part of that. His lack of mental acuity sent a message to world leaders that there's a problem. This isn't a problem of Joe Biden running for office. This is a problem of Joe Biden being the president. He's not capable. And the threat level of the Pentagon went up. The media need to be asking questions. I mentioned a moment ago that I want to talk about democracy. You know, the Democrats are so damn good about telling us democracy's under attack. They're all over it. That's their talking point. I have a very, very strong opinion about democracy being under attack. Hear me loud and clear. You're going to love what you hear. You see, in any normal election, last week's debate would have been the end of Joe Biden's long career. You see, his performance was horrible. It was abysmal. We know that. And under the rules of regular political order, meaning politics as it used to be, politics under the Obama administration, under the Bush administration, under the Clinton, politics changed when Donald Trump took office. Whether you like it or not, it's changed forever. So you can't look at political situations and politics and governing and political situations today, like we did 8 years ago, you have to wake up and change your thinking because the world's changed. Trump changed that. For Democrats that hate that, I'm sorry. For Republicans, MAGA Republicans, that's what you wanted. You wanted a guy who's not a politician. It's changed forever. But see, under the old rules of regular political order, Joe Biden would normally have passed the presidential baton to someone else, to anyone else. But this just isn't the normal election cycle. You see, Joe Biden's opponent is Donald Trump. Regular political order has been suspended because of Donald Trump. You see, there are media folks and people in this world, and Democrats in particular, and even some old line Republicans that don't like Trump. What they don't like is they want politics as it used to be. They want Tip O'Neill days. He was the Speaker of the House. You get into the Speaker's area. You get into the House. You make an argument. You disagree with someone else. You disagree with the other guy. And at the end of the day, you go out and have a beer. And you know what? Those are great days. But that's not the world we live in today. It just isn't. Politics have changed forever. You've got to listen to the dog whistle because it's changed. Much like the NFL has changed over years, it's gone from being a defensive league to an offensive league. And the importance of the NFL now is on scoring, not on defense. It's been an earth-shattering change of what's gone on in the NFL. And it's changed how teams have to build themselves. It's changed how teams have to pay their people. It's changed how you've got to man a roster. If you're a sports fan like I am, you understand the NFL's changed dramatically, and it's been a wake-up call. You got to stop and say, wait, the old NFL rules don't apply. Let's keep the score low in defense. New NFL rules benefit the quarterback and benefit the receiver. The game has changed. Politics has too. You see, politics has changed forever, and Donald Trump changed it, good, bad, or indifferent. The regular political order that we used to live by and experience is suspended. It's gone. It's gone forever. The world has changed. We may never get that back. Now, much of the country, including most of the media, and especially the media, when I say the media, I'm not talking me and us. I'm talking the national reporting media. And all of the Democratic Party, they are convinced that a second Trump administration presents a huge, unique threat to democracy. They keep telling us it's a threat to democracy. That's what this is. It's a threat to democracy. MAGA Republicans, Trump, he's a threat to democracy. How many times have you heard that? And you'll continue to hear it. For this reason, they think he needs to be stopped, even if doing so requires, well, let's say, subverting democracy. Again, I'm Westside Jeff. I'm sitting in for Chris Crock. I'm talking about my thought, my opinion on democracy's death has gone greatly exaggerated. And I'm going to continue this conversation. I got to hit a break. On the other side of it, I want to finish it. You see, democracy's alive. And I'm going to tell you how to frame it. And I'm going to give you talking points that you're going to say, you know what, Jeff, you're right. And you're going to use it because it's going to be beneficial. When you're in a conversation with somebody about threat to democracy, tell them what I'm going to tell you in about 4 minutes. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff in for Chris Crock on News Talk 820 WBAP and now 93.3 FM. So the Democrats continue to throw that line about MAGA Republicans are a threat to democracy. They're wrong. Let me explain that to you. By the way, if you like what you hear, you can go back and listen to this on the podcast. Download the WBAP app to your phone. You go to your app store, hit WBAP, download it. At the bottom of that app, you'll see podcasts. You can go back and podcast not only my show, but Casey. You can listen to James. You can listen to Ernie. You can listen to all of our guys on your app. Check it out. If you don't have it, take a listen to it. If you like what you hear, you can listen to it again and you can spread the news. Here's what I got to say about democracy. The death of democracy is greatly exaggerated. You see, in any other normal election cycles, other times of our life, the debate last week would have ended things. But you see, Joe Biden's opponent is Donald Trump. And regular order has been suspended by Donald Trump because the old days of how politics worked, they're gone. They're dead. They're gone forever. For those of you who are Democrats, if there are some of you listening, and I appreciate you, that you think democracy is under attack. No. Guess what? Politics has been changed forever. Wake up. You have to understand it. It's never going back to the way it was. You see, much of the country, including most of the media, reporting media, the national reporting media, those people sitting in the White House press briefing room that don't ask tough questions until today, and all the Democratic Party, they're convinced that a second Trump administration presents a unique threat to democracy. That's what they're filling the media airwaves with. And shame on you, national reporting media, for giving them that platform and not questioning that. Don't let them tell you that without questioning that. What is the threat to democracy? You've got to stand up and ask the question. And for this reason, the Democrats say it all has to be stopped at all costs. That's their belief. They say that they've got to stop it. Now, it's worth remembering that those now warning about the dangers of the second Trump presidency, they rejected the first Trump presidency. Powerful members of the intelligence and law enforcement communities tried to derail Trump in 2016 and in 2020. That's a point that democracy's defenders wave away today. They avoid to have that discussion. You see, prominent Democrats from Hillary Clinton to Hakeem Jeffries, they outlandishly claimed Russia stole the 2016 election for Trump. The same democracy crowd shrugged. Those Save the Democracy crowd, they shrugged. Now, in calling for Biden to step aside, the New Yorker's David Remnick today describes the election as a quote-unquote referendum on democracy itself. He has become a public relations arm for the White House. This is a referendum on democracy, he says, and asserts a Trump victory would mean quote-unquote diminishment of liberal democracy. You might expect an explanation, a few bullet points perhaps, but liberals and progressives have been retailing this language for so long. They think it explains itself, and the media is not questioning that. What is the threat to democracy is the question they should ask. Give us specific examples of what threat to democracy looks like under Donald Trump. Media, national reporting media, you have to stand up and you have to do your job. You've got to push back. And if they've got a point, then print it. But don't stand there and go, and write it. You see, the New York Times editorial board, in its call for Biden to step aside, they got closer to defining Trump's supposed threat to democracy. They said today, if he is returned to office, he has vowed to be a different kind of president, unrestrained by the checks on power built into the American political system. So you know what, New York Times editorial board? Let me ask you. You're telling me Trump will do things other presidents don't do? Like foster division? Maybe he'll prosecute his political opponents. Or maybe he'll defy the Supreme Court. You think Trump would encourage lawlessness? Please tell me, New York Times editorial board. Please tell me, national media reporting folks. Tell me more about those threats to democracy. I implore you to stand up and ask those questions. What specifically do you think Trump will do that will be a threat to democracy? The media won't do that. You see, Remnick says that Trump has an undeniably authoritative... I wrote this one down because big words. I don't talk in big words. But he said Trump has an undeniably authoritarian personality. Whatever that means. I don't know what he means by that. True, I'd tell you this. Trump is thick-skinned. You're thin-skinned. He's narcissistic. He's uncouth. He's not political-minded. He's not a typical politician. He's not PC. He doesn't talk like old politics did, but old politics is dead. Oh, politicians, that's out the window. See, the Americans voted Trump in office in 2016 because they didn't want a politician. But Americans already know that about Donald Trump. They also know it was never Trump's life plan to become the standard bearer of the right-wing populism. You see, Trump fell into it. Remember, Trump was a Democrat for many years. Then he all of a sudden became a Republican. Is anybody talking about that? Nope. You see, Trump, he has neither the political vision nor the executive capacity as the president of the United States to do something as ambitious as dismantling democracy. You see, the national media, these folks think that he's a threat to democracy. Think about this for a moment. They are basically saying if he's the president of the United States, he is the most important person in the world. He alone personally can wreck democracy. Is he that powerful? Well, hell, if he's that powerful, I say fix global warming. Hell, if he's that powerful to take down democracy, then he can fix climate change. He can fix the world's problems. If he's that powerful, if Trump has that much authoritative process, if he has the ability to change the world, if he can dramatically change democracy and tear it down, hell, he can fix the world's, he can stop the war between Gaza and Hamas. He can end all that stuff. Right? That's what Democrats are saying. You see, they're claiming Trump is a threat to democracy. And there's more to this that I want to get into in about 5 minutes, but I got to hit the bottom of the hour news. Lori Waffenschmidt in the newsroom dropped a note on my desk that said, hey, or on the table, it said, hey, Jeff, come out in the news. I got a story about Lindsey Graham as it relates to Joe Biden. That'll be interesting to hear what she has to say. I want to continue this conversation about threat to democracy. It's very, very important we have that conversation. Again, if you like what you're hearing, hit me up on Westside Jeff across social media. Download WBAP app and you can go back and listen to it again and take notes or share it off the app because the podcast will be up there probably an hour and a half. My man Garrett will have that up for you. Threat to democracy, my ass. I'll continue that conversation in about 6 minutes. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. And for Chris Crock on News Talk 820, WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. The name is Jeff, just first name basis, Jeff. I go by Westside Jeff. You can hit me up across social media at Westside Jeff. On Facebook, on X, formerly known as Twitter, and also Instagram. Sitting in for Chris Crock. Chris is off this week, enjoying family time, 4th of July. It's superstars like that and need to take a break and cleanse their mind and kind of get right. And this is one of those weeks for him, so good for him. I get a chance to sit in the chair and talk and offer my opinion, just common sense opinion on current events. I'm talking about democracy. You know, democracy's death has been greatly exaggerated. And when you listen to those on the heels of all that we've gone through the last couple of days, especially the Supreme Court ruling, you continually hear democracy, democracy. Trump's a threat to democracy. He's really not. I've been talking a little bit about it, and I want to finish that conversation. Talk radio is a conversation with the people, and that's what it is. It's a conversation with the community, and that's what I'm having. I'd love to hear your opinion. You hit me up across social media at Westside Jeff or pick up the phone 800-288-9227, 800-288-WBAP. If you like what you hear, shoot a note to the program director and tell him bruce.collins@cumulus.com. If you don't like what you hear, tell him that too. Make sure to download the app, WBAP, off your app store. It's free. You can go back and listen to the podcast and hear this again. You see, democracy has other threats with which to contend other than Donald Trump. You know, the Remnick from the New York Times, my question to him is, when Chuck Schumer bellowed that Justices Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh would, quote unquote, pay the price if the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, where were the Times editorialists when Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg ran on a promise to put the likely Republican nominee for president in prison? You know where they all were? The national reporting media were nodding all along. That's where they were. Is that democracy to you? Is it democracy when Chuck Schumer says that Justices Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh will pay the price if they overturn Roe v. Wade? Is that democracy? Is democracy when Alvin Bragg runs for office, and while running for office, he says, I will put the former president in prison? Is that democracy? You see, January 6, 2021 looms large in all of this talk of democracy's waning days. Nothing like it's ever happened before, and hopefully it never does again. But you see, when Trump supporters stormed the Capitol, the Constitution held them back. Think about that for a moment. The Constitution held them back. The law came down on everyone involved like an anvil. By contrast, when left-wing... Now think about that. They stormed the Capitol, the Constitution held up. But by contrast, when left-wing radicals took the streets in the summer of 2020, or how about just 2 months ago when they occupied Columbia University and the other college campuses this year, Democrats cheered them on and bailed them out. In fact, all those Columbia students, everybody involved in Columbia, all charges were dropped. What is the difference between that insurrection and the insurrection in the Capitol? I'm telling you, there's nothing. You see, all political violence, it's unacceptable. But if you're a Democrat, some of it is okay. Some of it's more acceptable than others. You see, when Americans use the word democracy, they don't mean only elections. They mean the whole constitutional arrangement, free speech, the separation of powers, civil rights, a free press. American democracy is liberty and justice for all, from Molly Pitcher and Thomas Jefferson to Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. It's two parties. It's Republican, it's Democrats. It's government of the people, by the people, and for the people. American democracy is a survivor. Think about this. American democracy has endured wars. It's endured assassinations. It's endured depressions. It's endured terrorist attacks. It's not so easily dismantled. And for the Democrats to think that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, if he's that powerful to take democracy down, hell, then he can end all wars, depressions, terror attacks, right? You see, that's a talking point. It won't be dismantled so easily. It can, however, be used as a sharp stick. And Democrats have shown themselves that they're very good at that. You see, labeling Republican presidential candidates as wannabe authoritarians, as dictators, has been their explicit project for more than 50 years. Reagan planned to declare martial law, according to some of those Democrats back then. He wanted to start a nuclear war, they said. George W. Bush signed the Patriot Act so he could spy on librarians. They said Joe Biden told a black audience that Mitt Romney was going to put y'all back in chains. I took a caller earlier today that brought that up. So now Trump's candidacy is more than just a bad deal for liberals and the issues they care about. It's a hair-on-fire threat to democracy itself. That's what they continue to spread. And Democrats wonder why Republicans yawn and why that is a talking point that doesn't matter. Why does that not stick except for the 18 to 24% of hardcore lefty Democrats? You see, the motivations of Trump supporters are still poorly understood by political class. Republicans aren't falling in behind. They're not falling in behind Trump because they hate democracy. MAGA right Republicans, they're not following Trump's lead because they want to blow up democracy. No, they love it. We love democracy. It's been good to me. It's been great to you. You see, every 4 years, democracy allows Republicans to sidestep the biased media, the biased national reporting media, and the permanent bureaucracy, and it gives us the ability to go directly with the people, to the people, and connect with those politicians. And that's why Donald Trump got elected in 2016. So today, as in 2016 and 2020, Red America wants to give Washington a smack in the face. The way that they'll do it is by voting for Trump. That's not a threat. That's democracy. See, democracy's death has been greatly exaggerated. The definition of democracy isn't what they want us to think it is. They want it to be groupthink. That's what they believe. That's what the controlling party in the White House, this administration, wants. That's what Democrats in leadership want. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they want groupthink. They want us, all of us, to understand what they're saying and to agree with what they're saying and to believe in what they're saying. And if we do, that's democracy in their mind. But if we don't agree with them, if we don't adhere to them, if we don't agree with their thoughts and policies, then that is a threat to democracy. You see, there's no threat to democracy. The real threat to democracy has been the Democrats trying to stop democracy. So when you hear threat to democracy, throw that back at them. You hear it daily from your friends on the other side of the aisle. I hear it all the time. And when I hear it, I throw that right back at them. If you want to throw it at them, you can always go back and listen to it again. Download the app, WBAP.com. I got it up in front of me. At the very bottom of that app, there's a little button that says podcast. Every one of these shows, Westside Jeff filling in for Chris Crock, is under that podcast. Go back and listen to it. It's even better the second time. There's no threat to democracy. Democracy is speaking of the people for the people. And what we saw last Thursday night is the people speaking, since Thursday, is the people speaking up and saying, we see a weakened leader. We see somebody that is not capable of running. Forget running for president. He's not capable of holding the office of president. And we need to address that now. Their groupthink is, let's get behind him. Our thought is, our eyes tell us something different. Our eyes and ears tell us something different. It's not a threat to democracy. Not at all. Earlier today, one of the news stories that hit was a Texan becomes the first Democrat in Congress to push Biden to withdraw from the presidential race. I want to tell you about that in 4 minutes. It's pretty historic that a current sitting member in Congress called for President Biden to step down from the race. I'll tell you why he did, because it's self-survival. I'll explain it in 4 minutes. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. I'm sitting in for Chris Crock on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on 93.3 FM. Westside Jeff is the name. Sitting in for Chris Crock tonight. By the way, coming up after top of the hour, I'm going to talk about what I call the chirp chirp thing that's going on in D.C. We'll continue that conversation. Also, Texas Department of Emergency Management has warned us that we have to be weather aware of Hurricane Beryl that's headed our way, could impact our southern border. Texas is in the cone. I'll talk about that coming up in about 15 minutes or so right after the news. Thank you for comments. Thank you. I'm getting a lot of messages across social media and email. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of the show. I appreciate it. If you want to connect, you can do that with me at Westside Jeff on social media. One of the things I want to talk about is today. It was, I think it was groundbreaking. It was as this onion gets peeled about does Biden run again or not. As I talk to all my political buddies, all the high-powered political guys I talk to say, yes, he's going to run. I'm the one that thinks no. I think common sense sets in and someone gets to him and they make a move along the way. And it won't surprise me if he doesn't finish his term. I think he probably does, but maybe he doesn't, is my opinion on that. Because it clearly doesn't have the mental acuity. And one of those shoes dropped today. United States House of Representatives member Lloyd Doggett, he's down in Austin. He was the first Democrat in Congress today to push Biden to withdraw from the presidential race. Now, Lloyd Doggett has a storied history here in the state of Texas. He has served in the legislature here in the state. He was a Texas House member in District 35. He was Texas Supreme Court, Place 2. He ran in the Texas State Senate, and he's a member of the U.S. House of Representatives now, was elected again in just 2 years ago. Here's what's behind this. He won his last election. I think the number was it was like 68 or 70% of the vote versus his Republican opponent. But what's happening is what you're going to see, and why you're seeing it, is down ballot races will matter. See, Lloyd Doggett from Austin late today came out, and he was the first Democrat in Congress to call on President Biden to withdraw from the presidential race. He said, quote, "Our overriding consideration must be who has the best hope of saving our democracy from an authoritarian takeover," again, back to saving democracy, "by a criminal and his gang." Doggett said in a statement that referred to former President Trump and his criminal investigation, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And Doggett goes on to say, and as I read his press release and stuff, it's interesting. Doggett credited the President Biden's devotion to public service and his leadership steering the country through a pandemic. But he said, yet for more than a year, many Americans have indicated dissatisfaction with their choices in this election. Doggett said, noting the polls showing Biden lagging behind down ballot candidates. That's the most important language in that story. Here's what's going on. It's one thing if Biden loses this election or wins the election, but the problem is this. The Democratic Party is really concerned that Biden at the top of the ticket is going to affect and impact negatively down ballot races. You see, there are 33 United States senators up for election in November, 33 of them. 23 of those senators are either Democrat or caucus Democrats. And if Biden pulls the ticket down, those 23 Democrats, some of them will lose and the Senate will fall to the Republicans. Now, the Senate falling to Republicans is horrible, but it's going to be even just as bad if the House picks up more Republican members. Democrats are scared to death that that Biden is not capable of being, his mental acuity is a significant problem, not only for re-election, but also for running the country. And they're concerned at the top of the ballot that it's going to sway voters who are swing voters in swing states not to vote for Biden and the Democrats down ticket. And I'm talking U.S. Senate, I'm talking U.S. House, and I'm talking governors. There are 11 governors up for re-election this fall. Majority of them are Republicans, but there's 3 real interesting ones that are up that you have to watch. One of them is the governor in Delaware. That's where Joe Biden's from. And if Joe Biden can't carry the weight at the top and he loses the governorship in Delaware, that is very, very telling. A second governor that's up is the state of Washington. That's Inslee. That shouldn't be a problem. But the real key pivot one is a big, big old swing state that could sway the election, North Carolina. The governor of North Carolina is a Democrat, and that's a very winnable seat for the Republicans. And Democrats are concerned they're going to lose a Senate. Again, right now it's 50-50, 51-50 in essence, with Kamala Harris being the tiebreaker. But they're concerned him at the top impacts those at the bottom. That's why you're going to see more calls for Biden to step aside. Someone's going to go sit and talk to Joe and say, Joe, you got to do this as a betterment of the party. I anticipate that to happen. I think you'll see more stories about that tomorrow and Thursday and Friday. The most important pivotal time will be July 4th because those guys in Washington come back to our districts and they're going to be in your local 4th of July parade. Fill their ears with what you think about this.